The Olympus E300 was released back in 2004. Now, at the time, this cost around $1,000. Nowadays, you can find it used for about $70. The Olympus E500 was released a year later in 2005. Now, at the time, it cost around $700, but nowadays, you can also find this used for about $70. So, which one of these classic CCD sensor cameras is right for you? In terms of design, that's where these cameras actually differ quite a lot. The newer E500 is basically just a very traditional DSLR style body. You know, you've got your traditional hand grip and your traditional viewfinder, and everything's pretty much normal, exactly how you would expect it to be. On the other hand, the E300 was designed in a bizarro world by crazy people. Now, it's a very unique styled camera. The E300 isn't just an unusual looking camera, it's kind of weird all around. You know, instead of a traditional mirror, it actually has a sideways swinging mirror, and it uses an optical poro finder instead of a traditional pentaprism like a regular DSLR uses. What that means is the E300 actually has 4 mirrors in the viewfinder that work in conjunction with a sideways swinging mirror in front of the sensor. So instead of being directed up into the pentaprism like a regular DSLR, the image is actually sent to the right and then upwards into the viewfinder, which is offset from the sensor. It's a quirky design and I kind of like it. Now, in terms of the LCD screen, the E300 has a 1.8-inch 134K dot LCD screen. It's pretty tiny, it's about the size of a postage stamp. The E500, on the other hand, has a 2.5-inch 230K dot LCD screen. Admittedly, both are pretty small and low resolution by modern standards, but I will say, for my aging eyesight, the E500 is quite a bit easier to see. Now, in terms of ergonomics, both are actually really good. The E500 with that traditional DSLR design actually has a really good grip that just feels good in your hands, and at the same time, the E300 has a bizarre grip that has like a weird little ridge along the front. You know, it's kind of shaped more like a rangefinder camera. It kind of puts me in the mindset of the Panasonic L1. Having said that, the E300 is also really comfortable. I will say though, in terms of size, the E500 is kind of a smaller DSLR, maybe picture something like along the lines of a Canon Rebel series, whereas the E300, it's kind of a chunky camera. It's actually a pretty big square block. Either way though, both actually feel really good in the hand. In terms of image sensor, both share an 8 megapixel 4/3 CCD sensor that's made by Kodak. There's the actual part number right there. So when it comes to image quality, you're actually getting the exact same images out of both of these cameras. You know, I've had both of these for a while and I've tested them side by side, and there's really no difference whatsoever. Not in color science, not in anything. They look literally exactly the same, which is a good thing, by the way. That Kodak 4/3 CCD sensor is one of the most beautiful sensors I've seen in my 36 years of photography. Now, in terms of storage media and battery, both actually share the exact same battery and charger. They're interchangeable, which is kind of convenient because my E300 didn't actually come with a battery or a charger, so I was able to borrow one from the E500. In terms of the storage media, they both use compact flash cards, and for any of you guys who aren't familiar with shooting older cameras, you've got to remember that bigger is not better in this case. You know, with these older cameras, you need to shoot a compact flash card that's like right around 2 to 4 gigabytes. You don't really want to go higher than that because a lot of times these older cameras can't actually recognize it and it just gives you an error. For the most part, I've been using a 4 gigabyte card with both of these cameras, and that seems to work best. In terms of shooting specs, both cameras are exactly identical. You know, they can go up to 1/4000th of a speed. In terms of shooting specs, both cameras are actually identical. Both will do up to 1/4000th of a second shutter speed. And for flash sync speed, both will give you 1/180th of a second or 1/4000th of a second in Super FP mode. And of course, in terms of burst rate, both are identical, giving you 2.5 frames per second unlimited in JPEG and 2.5 frames per second up to 4 frames in RAW. Now, in terms of menu system, both have the classic Olympus style menu. Aesthetically speaking, it's not the most attractive menu system I've ever seen, but having said that, it's pretty well laid out and everything's pretty easy to find, especially if you're an Olympus user. You won't have any trouble finding stuff. Now, as far as lens selection goes, both are unfortunately kind of limited. You know, the 4/3 mount kind of came and went pretty quickly. Almost as soon as it was invented, it was just kind of replaced with micro 4/3, and so there aren't a whole lot of lenses for the 4/3 mount. You're kind of stuck with a lot of 14 to 45 millimeter kit lenses and 45 millimeter to 100 millimeter zooms. There are a handful of good primes like the Panasonic Leica 25 millimeter f1.4. You know, just like the one that they make for micro 4/3, they actually made one for 4/3 also. The only problem with that lens is it's still pretty expensive even in this day and age, which is kind of a bummer when you're trying to find like a fun, cheap, older camera system. There is still a really good Sigma 30 millimeter f1.4 that you can find for around $155 on eBay. I would definitely recommend checking that out. But overall, know going into this system that there's not a ton of lens options. And in terms of overall image quality, both are using the exact same sensor, and so they're actually 100% identical. There's no difference in color science, no difference in anything. An image from the E300 looks just like an image from the E500. I've been testing them side by side and there really is no difference. And if you're curious and you would like to see a bunch of sample photos, I've reviewed both of these cameras already in separate reviews, so check out my E300 review or the E500 review for tons of sample images. So assuming that you're interested in one of these cameras and debating on which one you should actually buy, I would say this: if all you care about is image quality, both produce really good looking images. They've got that kind of classic CCD sensor sort of filmic look, and they are absolutely amazing. You can't go wrong with either one, so if that's all you care about, just buy whichever one's cheaper. Buy whichever one's in better shape. It really just doesn't matter. Now, if you're coming at it from a collector's perspective, someone like me, I gotta say, I personally would go with the E300 over the E500 because it is just so quirky and cool. You know, it's such a unique part of history that's kind of been forgotten, and I love owning that camera. You know, there's just something about the weirdness of that sideways swinging shutter and that bizarre sort of rangefinder-like body design. I don't know, the E300 just kind of speaks to me more on an emotional level. But again, the image quality from the E300, like I say, is 100% the same as the image quality from the E500. So overall, it's up to you. If you're interested in CCD sensors and you're looking for something that has film-like images, both of these are a good choice, and both of these are currently at a really great price. Anyway, I think that's all I got for today, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again next time.